I'll call the Dickinson City Commission meeting to order. Let the record show that all commissioners are present. First item this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move on to our order of business. Mrs. Carlson, are there any changes to the order of business?
President Decker, there is no changes to the order of business.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Any discussion on the order of business? Not, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Second. With a second. Any further discussion on the order of business? Hearing no discussion on the order of business as presented, all in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item up is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda commissioners wish to discuss? There's no discussion on the consent agenda. I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We'll move into administration and finance. Our first item up this evening is the annual actuarial services agreement with Gallagher. Mrs. Carlson?
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. Before you is the service agreement. This project assignment is issued pursuant to the term and conditions of our master agreement that we have on file. And this is the term for the this agreement is from January 1st through December 31st of 2025. I also put on the slide here the scope of the annual actuarial services. They perform the audit for our retirements of our people that are on OPEB or in our retirement plan that we have from our very first retirement plan from the city. So this is where they come in and they do the actuarial services. So from 24 with 25s, you can see that the annual GASB, which is a GFOA requirement of reporting, in 24 it was 3,300. And in 25, it's going to be 7,500. The annual funding for the valuation, 22.5, last year was 16. Other post-employment benefit reporting, which is the GASB 7475, is 3,300, and then last year it was 99. So annual would be 33,300. Last year was 29.2. And I put in the italics there. The 7475 requires annual valuations with updated censuses with every other year. The year ended in 24 report will be an interim report and use the valuations prior census. So the reason they're saying this is that some you will see that went down, some that went up, because they only do a full valuation every other year. So this is one of our full ones. And so this one we will pay a little bit more. Next year again, we'll see it go down again. This also includes our pension benefit statements for all the active employees. They produce those. They engaging with the auditor and completing the auditor request for both the plan and the financial statements. The attendance at one client meeting to present valuation results, which sometimes we have them come right to the retirement board meetings. And this contract is for that, and to explain the valuation. And then the fee for the standard individual calculations will remain the same at $350. And what that was is that the $350, anybody that is an employee that wants to see their annual evaluation like prior just to retirement, the plan pays for that first one, which is $350. If they want any other one, they have to pay for that plan. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the annual service agreement for the actuarial services for the auditing.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Any questions on the actuarial service agreement? If there are no questions, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bear,
Second.
second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion or questions, we'll go ahead and vote. Dr. Bear,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Mr. Frederick.
Aye.
Mr. Riddle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Mrs. Carlson, you have a presentation on public comments.
Thank you, Doctor. Sorry. Thank you. To change the order as follows. So our item number 8 is the public hearings. So we would change that just to public hearings, and this would be held at the current 5 p.m. time slot, and this would include anything that was city business, like prearranged presentations, swearing in of officers and oaths, code amendments, future land maps, rezones, ordinances, or other city business that require a public hearing. After the public hearing section, then the commission would go back into the remaining city business items. Then under public comment section, that would be item number 9, which would actually come just before the commission. So when public can comment on items that are not on the agenda, there would be a time limit set if the commission wishes. Then follow with number 10, the commission, with any comments from the commissioners, and then 11 is the adjournment. So the actual public comments not on the agenda would be after the city businesses have been already established. And one of the reasons after discussion with, during the retreat of the work session with staff and commissioners, this was also mentioned that we have a lot of city people that are sitting in the audience that are waiting for their presentation to happen, and the public comments and stuff seems to bring us a longer duration before we can get back into city business and stuff. But this way we would accommodate everybody, but get done with the city business first. That needs to be completed. But this is open for discussion, and staff is recommending this change to just be in a different order, but still be on the agenda.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Any comments or questions from Mrs. Carlson, or comments amongst commissioners?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Oderman.
I like this change because it's respectful to the time and especially the family time of city staff, as well as those that are here to conduct formal business that, and I mean, public comment also has formal business at times, but can be very open-ended. And I think out of respect for those people that are here conducting business with the various departments and things like that, I like the change. It doesn't eliminate public comment, but it does allow us to get the possibly timely business done in a timely manner.
Thank you, Commissioner Oderman. Any other comments?
Mr. President.
Commissioner Riddle?
Okay. Talking to a few people on this item coming up here, I know a lot of people would still like a set time, just so that they know when they can, instead of, you know, even if it would be 5:45, 6 o'clock, something like that, so that if they have something to say and don't want to be on the agenda, they know they can be there at that time, so that they don't, I don't want to say miss it, but say they get off of work at 5:30 and 5:45 it's coming up, they have time to get here. That's what I've been hearing from different people out in the community, I guess. So,
Well, I understand their concern, but if you look at public hearing and public comments right now, we start at 5. We don't have any set time. You know, we have A, we go on to B. We used to set times in the past, and then that just got out of whack. I mean, because we'd have a presentation down for 10 minutes and it would go on for 30, and it would throw the whole timetable out.
yep.
So now we don't have that time. I think it's a valid concern. It's just that we don't put a time on it right now. I do think to the fact of what Commissioner Oderman said, you have a lot of the engineering stuff. We're sitting here, we have engineering companies sitting here, and we're going 7 o'clock and they're still
Oh, yeah.
public comments waiting to get us a final plat approved. You know, whereas we could knock that out, get to the, get them back on the road or whatever, and still get to public comments. I guess, I know Commissioner Barry, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I did contact other cities, and I spoke with, to see how they do public comment. It's my understanding that we are very lenient. I mean, I think public comment is very important, and we're very lenient that we let anyone talk as long as they want. We don't put a time limit on it. However, what I've learned through contacting these other cities, I've talked to West Fargo, I talked to Grand Forks, I talked to Bismarck, and I talked to, I even went up to Killdeer. I spoke with Killdeer, and to find out how they run their meetings. And it's my understanding that we don't even have to have public comment section in our meetings, but some cities do allow it. I do think sometimes public comment does get out of hand because it goes on, and sometimes does not pertain to anything city-oriented. And there's nothing we can do about that anyway. I like, in talking with the mayor of West Fargo, what they do is, if you want to speak at a city commission meeting, you have to be on the agenda by noon of the day of that meeting. So they had their meeting last night. You have to be on, it has to be on the agenda by noon Monday. And then if they have 12 or more speakers, then what they do is they then take a priority as to which ones will be heard during that time. Other cities will do a public section, one that is at the beginning of the meeting, which is that only pertains to what is going to be discussed during that commission meeting. And then only one person is allowed at a time to come up and speak, and that's it, not multiple people coming up to speak. You can speak, say what you want to say, and then move on. They don't want a lot of repeats. And then at the end of the meeting, if there's something that needs to be discussed that was not on the agenda, then individuals can come up. Most of them have a time limit of 2.5 to 3 minutes of discussion. And when there's presentations and that, they have to be given to the commission before the commission meeting starts. And I think that's good so that as commissioners have an opportunity to see what is going to be presented so that we can ask questions. It's kind of hard when you're given something and not given ample time to read through it. So I think that is one thing with any kind of the prearranged presentation. I think we need to have that ahead of time. I think it has to pertain to city, something with the city. I don't need a presentation on butterflies in Dickinson. I need something that pertains to something we can deal with. I also like in West Fargo, during public comment, commissioners do not comment on what is said. In fact, they prefer you don't. The public has the right to say what they want to say, but it's up to the commissioners to listen. And then if they need to be directed to the appropriate department, then at that time, they're instructed or encouraged to do so. So I just kind of think we need to put some parameters on this. I do think when we put up their prearranged presentation, I think that needs to be defined as to what does that mean. And I think there needs to be a limit to 10, 15 minutes on those presentations.
Thank you, Commissioner Bear. Oh, just you and I left, Commissioner Frederick, so.
Well, I mean, it used to be that public comments were at the end. I mean, I don't know when we changed that, maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, it was
think it
always
just,
right before commissioner comments. I mean, so, I mean, I tend to agree with some of what everybody's said, is that we have these public comments coming in the middle of our agenda, and sometimes we waste an hour of some people's time waiting to get their, like you said, a plat approval, or we got an engineering company sitting out here waiting to testify on their portion of what they got on the agenda. So, and we're paying them obviously to be here also. So I think that moving that to the end like it used to be makes total sense to me. I'm not in a huge favor of putting time limits on people. I mean, but I mean, I think we could have like a generalization time, you know, you get 10 minutes, but if you run over, we're compassionate to that. I don't like putting time limits on people. But I mean, we're the elected ones. We're here. We're the ones that have to. We're elected to listen to the people. So if it's at the end of the meeting, I mean, I don't think that everybody needs to be here to listen to what the people want to address to the commission. So that's my personal opinion.
I tend to agree. I'm for moving it to the end. I think it won't, if somebody shows up after 5 o'clock, you know, to the point of having to know, very rarely recently have we had meetings that went really, you know, the 8 o'clock, 8:30 meetings we don't have anymore. I mean, but we do get into the 6:30 sometimes, and but if somebody, you know, if somebody's showing up at 5 o'clock right now to do the public comment, like tonight, they could sit and wait through 6 different presentations, right? And then there's no time limit. We don't have a time limit, and they might, you know, show up at 5 and still not get on until 6. So if it's towards the end, I think they could be a good judge of when you know, individuals will be in. I do think what's important, and Commissioner Bear and I attended a meeting down in Bismarck. I think what the most paramount thing is, it needs to pertain to the city. If you're going to get up here and talk, it needs to pertain to something that if it needs to be fixed, or there's a remedy that you're recommending, or you see something, it needs to be something that we can address as a city commission.
I agree with that.
You know, but to get up here and, like, you know, Commissioner Bear said, is you want to tell us about, you know, the migration pattern of butterflies and how it's being affected. Well, I'm sorry, we can't do anything about it. You know, we do what we do at the city level. So,
You know,
I'm not against moving it to the end. I don't know if we'll just have to have further discussion, or we want to, you know, basically pass a motion to move it tonight, you know, to the end, so that it'll be item number 9, basically.
Correct.
Right now we have 10 items. It'll just become its own item number 9, and it'll be public comments, not on the agenda, and then it'll be commission comments, and then we'll adjourn. So,
I mean, as for a time limit, I mean, I think if we still start our comments at 5 o'clock for public hearings, I mean, if they're here by 5, they're going to know that they're going to be here in time.
Right.
I mean, the only caveat to that, it could still be like that now, where you wouldn't get up there till 6:30 anyway. So I'm not sure that really affects anything. So I've had a few comments where people say they only get off work at 5, and sometimes 5 is hard for them to make. Well, I would think this would remedy that, because
Right.
it should be at least after 5. So we're not gonna, it'd be pushing it back, not pushing it ahead, so.
So I guess I would leave it open to if a commissioner would want to make a motion to amend for future, tonight's agenda is set, so it would be for future.
I mean, do we want to talk about, I mean, I think we could propose that, like I said, I'm not in favor of a time limit, but I mean, I think if somebody says they're going to come, I mean, we could have it on our agenda that you can expect 5 to 7 minutes to give your spiel, but I mean, I don't think we have to have something set in stone.
Right.
Like I said, I'm not big on putting a time limit on people if they have something that's city business that they have concerns about, and we're going to be asking questions back and forth. But
I mean, I think that it's up to the discretion of the chair. Like if somebody's
Yeah.
meandering and just talking about the same thing and they're being redundant over and over again, whoever is chairing that meeting, whether it be Mr. Decker or Dr. Bear, like they have the authority and the ability to say, hey, let's move this along. So,
I would agree with that.
yeah.
And then I also, if there's going to be a presentation, to Dr. Bear's point,
Yeah.
we need to have this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, we need to have information. I mean, if we don't have anything and somebody's just getting up there and they're going to blindside us with this information, and then expect some kind of resolution or some kind of us to answer the questions in a proper manner, and we're blindsided, somebody just threw something down on our desk, we expect that from our city staff to get us the paperwork so that we're prepared for a meeting. If somebody wants to do a formal presentation for us, then they also need to give us that courtesy of presenting us with the information.
I agree
So-
with that.
Yeah, and I think that information needs to be in at the same time that city staff is expected to get it in, which is the Thursday before the meeting, so that Rita can have it sent to us, so we have a little bit of time to go through the material.
I mean, that's the one thing, any of you that have come to the Board of Equalization, that's the hardest thing for us as commissioners, is all of a sudden, somebody comes in to protest their property tax, and all of a sudden they bring a binder to us full of these documents, and they're like, here's all this stuff. And then we're supposed to make a decision in reading a binder full of property tax statements in 5 minutes. And it's almost impossible to peruse that kind of information. So I think it's just we want to hear everybody's concerns, but at the same time, we need to have the information so that we can do it justice, rather than we're just up here on our heels, trying to figure out what to say. So,
Mr. President,
Commissioner
I
Orman.
would make a motion to move public comment not on the agenda to item 9 on the agenda going forward.
Okay, for future meetings?
Yep.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Oderman to place public comments on items not on the agenda to move it to item 9.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? No further discussion. We'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. All right, let's get up here. And now we'll go into, we have a demo hearing. City Attorney Winko?
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners. Included in your packet, you're going to find a copy of findings of fact and an order. If you all recall that the Commission met on December 18th, 2024 to hear testimony regarding a property located at 348 East Broadway in Dickinson. The code requires, as part of the demolition process, for the Commission to issue findings and an order as a result of that hearing. Once the findings have been approved by this Commission, they will be served upon the property owner. The property owner will have 30 days to appeal this Commission's decision to the District Court. Included in your packet, again, are the proposed findings based upon the testimony and evidence that was presented by the city at that hearing. City staff would recommend approval. And just so the Commission is aware, this property does have an accessory structure located on the property. That accessory structure was not discussed at the hearing because it's not deemed to be dangerous. It wasn't placarded. So what will happen is once the primary structure is torn down, that lot itself will become out of compliance because you can't have an accessory structure without a primary structure. So in discussions with city staff, I think at that point, once that property would be torn down after we go through the appropriate process, I think the goal would there be to work with that property owner to discuss his options to, one, bring the property back into compliance in constructing a primary residence, either removing that structure or demoing that structure if we get to that point. But I just wanted to make the commission aware of that because we did not discuss that at the hearing. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them, but the city staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, Mrs. Winko. Any questions for Mrs. Winko on this demolition hearing and the findings of fact?
Mrs. Winko, have we had a situation like that before with the accessory structure?
We've had some situations where two other times that we have torn down structures, but in those two situations, if my memory serves me correctly, the accessory structures also too had issues where they were inhabitable or also issues with their structure stability and things like that. So I think moving forward, this might be a situation that we experience a little bit more, but I think that we as a city staff have to have a policy in place or procedure in place to want to work with individuals to make these properties get back into compliance. We're not in the business of tearing down structures that are perfectly sound. So I had that conversation with Mr. Skolacek. I've talked to Mr. Dossinger about that. So, and that's just communication with property owners to make sure that they understand what their options are, what can be done, and again, looking and exploring at all options.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mrs. Winko or city staff? Now I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bear,
Second.
second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Mrs. Winko, you have a Dickinson recodification.
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners. Included in your packet is a proposed ordinance that will essentially adopt Muni Code. I'm happy to report that we are inching very close to getting that up and running and visiting with IT Director Meyer. We're hoping within the next couple months we can finally bring that forward and get that available to the public. But essentially, this is a very standard ordinance that Muni Code suggests in order for the city to bring forward to basically start the adoption process. I recommend approval, and I'd answer any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Winko. This will be ordinance 1814,
Correct.
and this is the adoption of Muni Code. Any questions for Mrs. Winko?
Mr. President, move to approve.
Have motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Mr. Riddle,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Dr. Bear.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. It is 5 o'clock, and first item this evening, public hearing. We have a presentation by, it says on here Kleinwachter, but presented by Attorney Sandy Kuntz.
Now you should be able to fast forward. Fantastic. I'm Attorney Sandra Kuntz. I'm here this evening appealing a complaint that we filed August 15th, 2024, and a subsequent decision coming from the city received October 3rd, 2024. I provided the council copies of not only the PowerPoint presentation we're going to run through, but the summary of my presentation this evening. It's my understanding from Attorney Winko that you have already been provided copies of that complaint, the correspondence back from Attorney Winko, together with my response to that. Primarily, we are looking at some issues at the 900 block of First Street East. Those issues consist of outdoor storage incidental to an auto repair and body repair. There's been some discussion and response that there are parking restrictions, and aren't we fitting within those parking restrictions? Versus, I've also quoted you some nuisance laws. And so I wanted to bring forward in the summary that you see, your code. Okay. First of all, this issue's been pending for the better part of a decade, is my understanding, and has been brought to the city attention through the PD as well as city staff. And so I've enclosed or incorporated for your review a copy of one of those police reports. The standard response received by the citizen that resides over there is that you just need to keep reporting, that this isn't really a violation. There is a right to park there for 48 hours, and keep working on it. So I'm going to show you what it is it looks like over at the 900 block of First Street East. These are the vehicles that are consistently being stored on the public street. And so I call to your attention your supplemental use regulations at section 3906, subsection 5. Your city code says outdoor storage incidental to auto repair and body repair is permitted provided such storage is completely screened as to not be visible from residential areas or public rights-of-way. That very language contemplates that if it can't be visible from the public right-of-way, they can't be parking on the public right-of-way. And so the response that my client has been receiving as one of the property owners there, that there's this right to park for 48 hours, is inconsistent with your own statute. And so then I pull your subsection 9. It goes on to say that same outdoor storage must be completely screened at property lines by an opaque barrier. Well, if it's to be completely screened at the property lines, again, your own language contemplates that you can't be parking your outdoor storage of vehicles on the public right-of-way. So I put this presentation together to give you an idea of what it looks like every day. This isn't 3 or 5 times a week that you see this. This is every day. And so this is what the 900 block looks like. And you're going to find in some of these photos that there are yellow stripes of no parking zones that the city has already attempted to put there. You'll see this vehicle on your left, the white pickup, is parked on one of those yellow striped zones. These are additional vehicles parked right in front of the residential owners over there who need their garbage picked up. And so the city garbage does not get picked up once a week when they roll through. And so this, having been pending for the better part of a decade, my client is sort of out of patience, waiting and continuing to document these consistent violations of your own zoning ordinances. The next ordinance I highlight for you is section C on page 1 of my summary. It says nuisance. Your own ordinance and the statutory century code says that it is unlawful to deposit rubbish, fluids, substances, etc., that damage the streets. This, too, is consistently what you find at the 900 block of First Street East, which is in part the basis behind you having a zoning regulation that says if you have outdoor storage related to your auto body repair, it has to be not on the public right-of-way. So I think there is a fundamental misunderstanding by city staff that there is sort of this right to park for 48 hours that somehow trumps your zoning ordinances. And so I wanted to bring this to your attention to try to figure out how it is we can remedy this. And not remedy it merely by providing my client, please keep documenting, because if you've been provided the full breadth of information provided Ms. Winko, you will have seen the better part of 200 photos, videos, and related documentation spanning the better part of nearly a decade of this consistently showing up at the 900 block. Repeatedly, the deposits on the street, repeatedly attempting to leave your own driveway and being parked in by the outdoor storage by this auto body repair. And so what we've asked this city to do is to simply enforce your own zoning ordinances. If you are storing your vehicles that you intend to service on behalf of your clientele, you have to do it within the four corners of your property. You can't expand beyond those four corners and expect that everybody else around you just has to put up with the collateral baggage that comes with growing beyond your walls. This would be the equivalent of somebody claiming they had a right to park in a diagonal space and then swapped out their compact car for a motor vehicle, big motorhome. And they just drove in the spot and they didn't quite fit there, so they took 2 spots. Or they took 3 because they tried to park in one and just expanded beyond that. And then they left their tail hanging out in the public right of way. I think we'd be fining those individuals, saying when you outgrow the design of that particular area, and that design includes parameters that are marked by parking spots or otherwise, or zoning ordinances that expressly say, keep it within the 4 corners of your property boundaries and cover it with an opaque barrier. Do not have it visible to the public right-of-way. Do not have it visible by the residential areas around you. It doesn't get any clearer than that. And so when we start rolling through, I've commented already about the PD reports, the calls to dispatch, the response from the city based on the complaint I filed in August included a request. Now, I hope this plays out. Includes a request for copies of any police reports and sort of call logs of how many times Mr. Kleinwachter, the resident across who's filed this complaint, has requested responses from the city. Just within the last 12 months, there's 16 calls in. And the response to the complaint when I've brought this forward is keep documenting. There's not a violation. What is the purpose of documenting if this is the consistent response? I don't know why our video's not playing, so I'll just keep rolling. Oh, well, here we go. Here is one of the videos of driving again consistently down this street. One of the comments I heard in the response as well is that there are safety concerns with putting up an opaque barrier. There's going to be problems backing out of this business, okay? Anybody have any safety concerns with this on the public street? And this is a resident trying to get back in their driveway. We have to maneuver around a car trailer that I'm assuming is dropping off another vehicle to be serviced. And then we have to move around a what appears to be a delivery truck who is dropping off additional items for the same business. Again, we're having some problems there. There's another picture of the truck. This is another day. And so when I say this isn't a once or twice a week problem, this is a daily concern. You will note, and I apologize, I don't have a laser pointer, this is right out the front walkway. Those are your yellow striped areas. So the city's effort to try to work with my client to say, we're gonna make some no parking zones and see if that improves the thing. I can assure you with over 200 videos and photos, that too has been a non-compliance situation. And those keep being reported.
Where does the yellow line stop? One picture showed the stop, like, right past the garbage
Right there, where you
cans.
see on the left, you see the garbage cans, okay? So it stops at the driveway, and it picks up, or the driveway on what would be your right-hand side where the garbage dumpsters are.
So are they right on the edge of the yellow line then, the garbage dumpsters?
The garbage dumpsters are right on the edge of the yellow
Okay,
line,
thank you.
okay? And then on the photo to your right, they pick up on the left side of the driveway and go east. Right where that truck and trailer are unloading, another vehicle to be serviced.
Okay, so the picture on the right is to the east of that driveway.
Correct.
Okay.
It would be to the, no, it would be to the west, to the driveway, right?
No, it'd be to the east.
You can see it right there.
No,
yellow.
Right here was where you can see. To the east would be the left-hand picture, left-hand side. That would have been where you saw the truck in the prior photo.
Okay.
Or excuse me, not the truck,
But the
on
truck
your, on
right there,
left,
or
the
the truck
pickup
right there
truck
is to the
and
west,
trailer.
to the west of the driveway.
Correct.
You're talking the delivery truck.
Yes, the delivery truck. That's
I
what I'm talking-
apologize. Yes, I'm
Yes.
referring to the pickup truck with the trailer that's parked across the yellow lines. So again, some more photos, and these are recent. These are 2023, 2024, and I have a whole drive if you'd like to see them all. And I provided a copy of the whole drive to Ms. Winkow. So she certainly has all of that information available for additional review. Again, this is an ongoing situation. So I think we need some guidance from the commission to tell your staff and to advise the police department that the parking assumption that somehow there is a right to park for 48 hours is a misnomer. There is no right to park. And in fact, your city regulations under 23.72 regulates all kinds of classes of traffic and where they can park. Everything from weight and load restrictions, commercial vehicles prohibited on certain streets. Your zoning provision is intended to be interpreted the same way. You don't read your weight and load restrictions with an exception for, oh, but you have a right to park for 48 hours. And then go out there when the complaint is received, because we've been provided the policy on when a parking violation complaint is received. They receive the complaint, they go investigate the complaint. If they find it to be valid, they mark the tires. And then from that point, that person is given 48 hours to make sure there's something done about it, okay? And so, unfortunately, what that does for the violator is it gives them nearly 4 days, 96 hours to hang out. And that's been taken advantage over at the 900 block. Because now it's 4 days of outdoor storage before there's any concerns about doing it. And police report after police report actually says that. Contacted the business owner. They assured us the vehicles have been moved around. Well, I think that's an admission that they know while you dance around the ordinance. We've asked for compliance, and I've not come here with just a screenshot and series of photos saying, we got a problem, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. I'm here with solutions too. And so those solutions I bring forward to you on page 4. First solution I suggest to you, follow your own ordinances. Clarify that the interpretation of your zoning ordinance is clear. It's not misguided, it's not confusing. It says outdoor storage must be in the 4 corners of your lot, screened. If there is some safety concern about that screening there, fine. Look at the potential for a variance, but not outside the 4 corners of the lot. And then the second part of your ordinance, it must not be visible. Your outdoor storage must not be visible by the residential areas or the public right-of-way. It means it can't be on the public right-of-way. So that's my first suggestion. Enforce it as is. If you want to be extra clear, go in and modify your ordinances. Language I suggest says the 48-hour parking provisions of section 23.56 are not available to skirt the requirements of the outdoor storage incidental to commercial uses as defined in 3906. Because it's more than just auto body repair. There's other definitions within your ordinances. You don't have to change those. You have to follow their intent. My second suggestion or second solution is I looked up some suggestions in Bismarck. Bismarck, in order to address some of these things, if you'll look under subsection 3, says a vehicle involved with a citation for a 48-hour violation, there must be evidence it's been moved a distance greater than 1,200 feet. If you need more definition in your ordinances, then I suggest 1 and 2 are appropriate. But this situation, if you turn to the last page of my presentation, because I know you are booked this evening, this situation is not unique to the 900 block of First Street East. We have plenty of other businesses, Villard, South Main, 21st Street East, where this problem, I took a drive around the community. I noted these streets because it's visible from the public right-of-way. And so this is not the last location where you essentially, by your current interpretation of this 48-hour rule, are actually enabling the violation of your own zoning ordinances. I'm asking that you change and clarify that that is an incorrect interpretation of your 48-hour parking situation. And that is not a 48-hour right to park. Your own ordinance says, if you park, you may not allow it to remain for greater than 48 hours. It's not a right to park. It's part of parking restrictions, just like all of your weight provisions and commercial parking restrictions for various areas of your community based upon how your streets were designed. They weren't designed to carry the weight of some of the vehicles we see in this community. This area of 900 block of First Street is not designed for outdoor storage next to residential areas. Because this is what it looks like. And there's your yellow no parking areas. And there's the scoot right up next to it. And that's constant. I'm available for questions. That is my presentation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kuntz. Any questions for Ms. Kuntz?
I do have a question for either Mrs. Kuntz or for Mrs. Wanko. I took note of the term stored or storage. What defines if a vehicle is being stored according to the law?
I think your ordinance, you can go ahead if you'd like. I think your ordinance is clear. Your ordinance identifies what your zoning requires of commercial businesses. And then it has supplemental regulations related to that commercial zoning. And that's where it says, related to your commercial business, any outdoor storage is permissible only provided the language I already quoted you. So it's part of your commercial district regs. Do you have any additional?
Commissioner Oderman, if you're asking whether the word storage is defined within our code, I don't believe it is. I think it's incorporated and has to be taken into consideration as to what that means logically and practically. But I don't think there's a specific definition of storage in the code.
Because I mean, like, trying to see this from both sides of this. If a vehicle is there for a couple hours or something like that, I don't know if I would deem that as stored. However, if that thing's overnight, it's and that's the 48 hours. I'm taking probably the same issue that perhaps Mr. Kleinwalker is like that the vehicle is effectively being stored there if it's overnight beyond business hours. And so then we get into those commercial regulations. And then the other concern I have is the blatant violation of the yellow no parking area. If I parked on a yellow or a blue line, other places in town, I'd get cited. Do we have any record of citations that have been issued on vehicles that are parked on the yellow line there?
Commissioner Oderman, I think the best person that could answer that question is Deputy Chief Hansen.
Question to you, Deputy Chief Hansen.
President Decker, Commissioners, thank you. Through the stats that I can pull, in the 900 block of First Street East, it's a little bit difficult the way that our parking tickets get processed differently than our traffic warnings and our traffic citations. I can tell you that one parking citation was issued there. However, when I pull the statistics on, I believe Mrs. Kuntz's records were correct. I believe it's 17 now in 2024 was the calls for service there in the 900 block. It's difficult for me to see, unless dispatch puts a bunch of language in there, if it's a yellow zone or if it's an overparked vehicle or what type of parking regulation, but I can tell you that there was at least one citation issued.
Thank you.
Anything else, commissioners?
How does this situation differ from, let's say, in a residential setting where you have houses or condos on one side and an apartment complex on the other, where you have individuals living in the apartment complex parking in front of the opposite side homes and condos?
Well, Commissioner Bear, I think it's going to depend on the zoning designation for that particular area. And we'd have to look at what the code would provide. I would assume, and maybe building official Schwint can add to that as well, but I'm going to guess that we're going to have to look at, again, what the particular zoning designation is, whether, we're looking at R1, R2, and what the parking requirements are for that particular zoning designation. I could very much see that what you're describing could happen in those types of situations as well. I think the use plays into factor where in that situation we're dealing with a commercial use right across from a residential area. In that situation that you're describing, we're talking residential area. I think that factually that would be different because, again, you're talking from a commercial use to a residential use. But building official Schwint can modify that accordingly.
President Decker, Commissioners, on an apartment up against, say, R1 zone residential lots, the required parking would be required for those apartments for off-street. That wouldn't prohibit someone from that apartment actually parking on the street, though. So it still is public parking.
Are there any other comments or questions, commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question for Deputy Chief Hansen. So, 17 calls in the last year, only one citation. This location is obviously on your guys' radar. Why has there only been one citation? And I know that it's impossible to know that you don't have the data in front of you, and you don't have every single officer that drove by a vehicle that was perhaps parked illegally there. But, I guess I shouldn't say illegally because maybe they were parked not on a yellow area or you have no verification of that it was there more than 48 hours. But it's kind of hard to believe that with 17 calls for service, there's only been one citation issued.
Thank you for the question. It's a very valid question. I guess I'll pose it back in this way. I guess I jumped into this problem, I believe it was in about May of 2023. The scene looked exactly like what Mrs. Kuntz has kind of portrayed it to be. I mean, there was a lot of storage. You could tell it was storage. It was there overnight, and we started working. The problem was larger than us just going and writing tickets to these places. We were trying to find some type of a way to actually resolve the problem. We started with working with ownership at Schmidt Transmission, finding out what can we do, what is a real solution to this problem instead of just hanging tickets, because the problem with hanging tickets on these are not owned by the transmission shop that's across the street that's doing work on these. So, I mean, effectively, I could hang tickets on it, or we could tow them at the owner's expense, but I mean, realistically, we're not solving the problem. New customers will come in, so we started working with ownership at Schmidt Transmission. We've come up with a lot of different solutions. He's been very willing to work with us. I feel, even in conversations with Mr. Kleinwachter, that the situation has greatly improved. The north side of the 900 block of First Street East there typically now does stay free and clear of vehicles. I live in that area, so I see it often. Working with Remington Schmidt, the vehicles that we do see parked there, they're not necessarily disabled vehicles, but what they are is they're vehicles that have been fixed. Maybe they're waiting for payment, waiting for pickup, or it's been somebody that you just see where they've just dropped them off and they haven't had a chance to rotate them out. Typically what you're seeing is officers will go there. We've talked to them, go have a conversation, let's try to remedy this thing. I'm just not sure that it's the stance of the police department that it would be a wise idea if Mr. Oderman's vehicle had a transmission problem and you dropped it off and you were looking for service to that I hang a ticket on yours because of this going on. So we're trying to look at something bigger to actually solve the problem outside of just hanging a bunch of tickets, I guess, if that answers your question.
Well, so, I mean, you're saying that you feel like it's improved. If it's improved, why is Mr. Kleinwachter with his attorney here?
I can tell you this, I believe it was in August of this year, when we started seeing improvements from us and from city engineering, city administrator Dossinger. We were down on site. We had seen things improve. He had requested that he wanted to see escalation of efforts. I actually called for a meeting inviting city code, city engineering, public works, city administrator Dossinger, and both parties, both Schmidt Transmission and Mr. Kleinwachter. Let's get into a room and let's try to solve this problem. What can we do? What is it going to be as far as mediating this? And I was met with resistance from Mr. Kleinwachter. He said he did not want to pursue that. Shortly after that is when his attorney had filed paperwork with the city. So I don't have an answer for you, I guess, sir, to that.
Well, I guess when was the complaint filed?
Oh man, I want to say, I think I got the letter from Ms. Kuntz in
August 15th.
August 15th, yeah.
So, I mean,
Yes.
like, that's 4 or 5 months ago. Like, and we're going to say that the situation has improved?
No.
Like, I just, like, Deputy Chief Hansen, that just doesn't, again, that doesn't wash with what we're seeing here tonight. And so, like, I get wanting to work with both parties here. And we don't have any pictures from like the last 4 or 5 months. I guess most of those seem like they're in like the July, August time frame. Maybe more on your flash drive.
I have recent ones
Okay.
on my flash drive.
Okay. And so we've known about this. You've known about this, Deputy Chief Hansen, since at least May 2023. That's a year and a half ago. I'd like to see some type of resolution to this outside of we can't just hang tickets because, like, what other options do we have in regards to we've tried the carrot. I mean, are we at a stick point here?
And if I may address that, I think when you look at any time a city is building its zoning ordinances, it has already used the experience of years of communities going through growth of this sort. And behind those contemplated regs is the idea of, we're going to have these issues. And the question is, are we going to spend valuable police time, administrative time, hanging tickets, or are we going to have an ordinance that says, if you have outdoor storage incidental to an auto repair, it's got to be in the four walls of your property. It can't be visible to the residents. It can't be visible to the public right away. There is a reason those ordinances get developed, because they come with a history of development by multiple other communities who have gotten to the point of banging their head against the wall saying there's got to be more options. This is the option you already adopted. Probably not you as the commission, but whenever these ordinances came by, or its prior version, the idea was, we don't have the resources, PD-wise or administrative-wise, to be hanging tickets. We got real issues in this community. And so I'm here getting a little loud because your very options are already in here too. They're in violation. Enforce it. If they outgrew their location, then it's like any other business that's expanded. They have to come up with the solution. That includes keeping it in the four corners of their property, or finding more property, or finding the resolution so they're not in violation of your own zoning ordinances. That's your solution. You can try the other ones. I can assure you they're going to be far more expensive and far less efficient. That's why we've seen no solution in the 10 years it's been pending and the multiple years of knocking on the door trying to play nice. I appreciate you reached out and tried to get the group together. My response was, pardon my French, hell no. Because the solution was already tried. Doing the same thing over and over again, I think, is the definition of, crazy and expecting a different result. I think that's correct, or insanity.
That's insanity.
Thank you.
So my question, how long has this been an issue, would you say? I'm not sure how long Mr. Kleinwalker's owned the house. I know his parents had it prior to him, I believe.
And it was prior to him owning the home. So we have...
Schmitz has been there since, I'm looking right now, 1957, maybe?
Yep.
Is that
And the
possibly
residence
right?
was there before that.
So that's what I'm saying. So it looks like they must have put their new building up in 2002. So in 22 years, this has been a problem for 22 straight years.
The problem comes as they grew. And the outdoor storage expanded into the public right away. So if you look at Schmidt Repair, their facilities have expanded, taking over portions of the lot where they previously stored the vehicles they had to service. And thus, we have the situation you see today.
It's Mr. Schmidt.
Before we have Ms. Kuntz sit down, any other questions for Ms. Kuntz?
Yeah, well, I guess not really questions, I guess. So, not for Ms. Kuntz. So how come clearly we have our ordinances, as well as Century Code against nuisance, nuisance being safety, oil in the street, ATF, coolant, oil, whatever it may be, gets rainy, gets slick, runs down into the stormwater drain as well. So that's a big one there. Our ordinances, why, if this has been going on for as long as it has, and city staff has been notified of this, how come it's never been taken care of? I mean, if we get weeds that are so tall, right away it has to be taken care of. Because that's in an ordinance. This is in an ordinance. Completely screened, not visible to residential and or public right-of-ways. Confined to the lot. Why is the city picking and choosing. I see a smile, so that's a good thing.
Okay, so like Mr. Frederick said, that this building was built in 1957, 1958. That building does not conform to our current setbacks for this zoning. We're not going to tear the building down. That customer parking, if you look at parking, what's the definition of parking compared to storage? You're parking on the street or you're putting storage on the street? We generally look at storage on residential for 72 hours if it hasn't moved. If you're taking a vehicle, you're going to park it and you're not going to use it for a couple of days, does that constitute storage? You could argue that. We create ordinances to put campers on the street. When that first ordinance came through, I argued that that's storage because you can't drive that camper, but we created that ordinance to park that on the street. It's parking on the street. This is the same circumstance. We have customers parking. If that vehicle, I don't think we have any documentation of work being done on the public street or work on the lot itself. Or our department, when we go from property line in, we have not seen any type of work in the parking lot on our observation. So that is actually parking. These vehicles are coming and going quite a bit. And again, for us to designate time to go, we do have some aerial photos, which generally we can't use, but we get an idea because the code does not allow us to have those aerial photos as far as bringing a case against a private property owner, but it gives you kind of an idea. But a lot of these vehicles aren't there for more than 3 days. And with talking with the city planner, we're saying, okay, what constitutes short-term or long-term storage? Or when does it start storage? Think of an airport. Is it 3 days? Is it a week? And then after that, it's long-term. So generally, the 48 hours that somebody can park on the street, that's parking. After that time, could you argue that's storage? That's kind of what we use. On private property, it's at 72 hours. After that, it's storage. So I don't know if I cleared it or made it worse, but, and with this building, again, we have a non-conforming structure. We're not going to have the property owner tear 20 feet off because that's a setback for this zoning. And to actually put screening up now because the building goes out to the property line, that actually creates a hazard for pedestrian travel and street traffic. So leaving that property, again, the severity of what could happen because we put up a screen. Again, these ordinances were, this building was here for a long time, but I can.
So how about the nuisance side of it with the oil slicks in the street?
Well, again, if there's oil, just like if there's an accident in town, Public Works addresses it, Fire Department addresses it, and PD addresses that. It's taken care of. If that was called to Public Works, I believe they have a process of bringing dry, and I think the owner actually is taking part of that also.
Commissioner Riddle, I guess I can answer that to a certain degree. In some of my visits that I've been out there putting my own eyes on it has been with city engineers, it's been with code enforcement, it's been with Public Works. In working with Schmidt Transmission, I didn't mean to perceive that our only option here was just to talk to the customers and not write tickets, but security cameras have been installed that we have access to footage on so we can actually see when vehicles are cycling. And the owners of Schmidt Transmission has actually purchased his own street sweeper, street sweeps that area, puts out dry spill and things like that. So like, I guess when we say that things are improving, we're seeing tangible things improving in there.
Yeah, because I mean, to piggyback off of what Mr. Riddle just said, like, I'm concerned about the resource allocation of the PD having to continue to respond to nuisance calls and calls for service. I'm concerned about, I mean, we have limited resources here at the city of Dickinson. To have to clean up oil slicks and stuff like that, that's nice to hear that the property owner has purchased something like that. But to me, that's evidence that like there's an ongoing issue, and we're trying to prevent a hardship for Schmidt Transmission, but not acknowledging the hardship for Kleinwalkers. I mean, a hardship to the point that he's using his own private dollars to hire an attorney to come and present to the city commission.
Are there any further comments or questions for Ms. Kuntz? None. All right, thank you, Ms. Kuntz.
Thank you.
Mr. Schmidt, you had your hand up, so.
Some of the things I wanted to clarify, a lot
Could
of
you
those,
state your name for the record?
sorry, Remington Schmidt. As far as it goes, a lot of those photos are older photos. At most, there's maybe 6 to 8 vehicles on our side of the street, which is not affecting necessarily anyone at a residential home for their parking or anything like that. Those are all fully operable vehicles that have been finished and may be parked out there for the person to pick up that day or the following day. We don't use storage on there, anything to be worked on. There are times on a weekend that someone may drop a vehicle off on the side of the street, but as soon as we're open during business hours, if it's a vehicle that is there for us to work on, it's immediately brought in our lot and kept in the lot the entire time. Those are some of the times that you do get stuff with oil spills, where somebody drops off a vehicle that, say, they had a U-joint go out and it broke the transmission in half, and it's actively leaking. It's kind of out of my control if after hours the customer tows it in, or say a tow company drops it there. But like I said, the following hours when we do open, it's immediately brought in and the spill is cleaned up and addressed from that situation. We do tell all of our customers to stay away from parking on the yellow line. We do tell people to put everything in our lot when we're knowledgeable about it coming in, to try to prevent any further issues or somebody misparking when they leave it there. So I don't know what more to really touch on with things, but
Any questions for Mr. Schmidt?
Mr. Schmidt, what's
Yes.
your vehicle turnaround in a month?
I honestly don't know off the top of my head. We try to average anywhere from 6 to 10 vehicles a day in and out of that shop.
Are there any further questions? Thank you,
Mr. President,
Commissioner Bear.
I have a quick question for Ms. Wanko.
You have
a
question for Mr. Schmidt?
Well, yeah, I do. What's, piggybacking off of what Commissioner Riddle said, how often do you have a vehicle that is there for drop-off and a pick-off, and then you have other vehicles that switch around? How often does that happen during the day, where you have multiple vehicles coming in?
It's
Dropping
daily.
off, picking up.
It's, I mean, a good handful of the day. Some days, say Mondays we're busy, you'll have 4 or 5 getting dropped off in 2 hours. The next couple days you might not have any. It really varies. It's hard for me to put a time frame on any of that, or an amount, I should say, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So, another thing I did want to add to, as far as it goes for delivery vehicles, I know my business is drawing in, a UPS truck or MME or FedEx, whoever it may be. But I also don't see how it really does fall on me when they park in the middle of the street. That's not super abnormal to see a UPS truck parked in the lane with his hazards on, dropping a package off.
I don't believe there's anything in our code that's illegal for local delivery, so, to a business.
Because I just know in some of the photos that was a big part that was being touched on. I don't really see how, like I said, one, that's even in my control, or, how I'd be responsible in that matter.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that out here at
Anywhere.
First on a daily basis. When
I mean, anywhere downtown, you see local delivery trucks dropping off, so. In the middle of the street.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Schmidt? Thank you. Ms. Kuntz, Anthony, you have any? Mr. Kleinwalker?
Anthony Kleinwichter, I'm property owner at 963 First Street East. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. So the problem is, it's not about 3, 4, 5 vehicles. It's 10, 15, 20. I've seen a personal best of 27 vehicles on the street. It's not about delivery trucks. It's not about people dropping them off. It's one, the employees store vehicles there, whether that be campers, fishing houses, boats, big trucks with the wheels off on the street. This was 2 months ago, leaking oil with the anchors down. So employees store their vehicles there. Then you have people dropping things off. Plus you have stored vehicles that sit there. You have customers coming and going, plus deliveries. So it's complete chaos. Monday through Friday, pick your time. There's gonna be vehicles parked in the yellow zone. I can't see to get in and out of my driveway. When I left here, same problem. Somebody unloaded their pickup in front of my driveway. I had to wait. I've got it on video on my phone. That jump drive, it's all dated. You can see it's been an issue for 10 plus years. It's gotten increasingly worse in the last 2 years, which is why I've been pressing so hard on it. Nobody wants to do anything. I have no idea why. So I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I do have one more question, actually, and I'm not sure who best to direct this to, but I don't know that I can blow this up anymore, but this is your assessor's photo. On the west side of this lot is a vacated alley. Why are they not parking there as opposed to the public right away, if you're gonna call it parking or storage or have this dispute about language? I think your ordinance is clear in its definition of any outdoor storage incidental to, but they have avenues to follow your ordinance to a T. And so I've not heard any comment why that entire vacated alley that runs the length of their lot is not available for them to put vehicles pending service.
Mr. Skolacek, is that a vacate, to Ms. Kuntz's point, is that a vacated alley?
I'd have to do research on that, but currently on our GIS, I was just looking, I do not see that it's vacated, so additional research would be required.
I'll pull it up here quick. Please state your name for the...
Rick Schmidt, previous owner of Schmidt Transmission. Business has been there 34 years, and REM just took over. It's 2 years now ago, and he's working on getting a lot to put disabled vehicles in. But right now, he's having some growing pains, but I guarantee you, since this year, I mean last year, there's never been a vehicle left out on that street 48 hours. They've been moved, rotated, whatever, and those pictures I feel are misleading. I mean, if you take 10 years, some of those pictures are back when I owned it. I mean, and go and look, I mean, if you go by Charbonneau's any time of the day, Charbonneau's looks way worse than Schmidt Transmission. I mean, they got 2 city blocks parked up, you can't even get close. And I mean, he's working to take care of that stuff, and same with the oil spills. You go and look anywhere, I mean, that business been there 34 years, going on the 35th year. I mean, the street is going to look like that, you know. I mean, it's nothing that REM can do to stop, you know, when they get dropped off. Some of them leak, and I mean, it's always addressed. I mean, it's with floor dry and stuff like that. I mean, you go look at any Walmart parking lot, I mean, that thing's full of oil. I mean, and that's, you know, I just want to say that he's working on trying to get like an impound lot so he can, but every weekend there's nothing on the street. Friday night, the street's empty.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Schmidt?
Mr. President, I just have one question for Mr. Schmidt. When you guys rotate vehicles, do you take one out of this spot and put one right back in that spot?
know what I mean by rotation. They're either picked up and then another one's dropped off to get work done, you know. But yeah, I mean, I know that there's nothing left there for 48 hours. That's how come there's no tickets. Because, I mean, that's the rule we've been going by is, you know, I guess they're definitely not used for storage out there. And, you know, and he's doing the best he can to try and keep everybody happy because, I mean, the yellow line, how many blind spots in town is there? I can name 30 or 40, and not everybody gets a yellow line. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and we never complained about the yellow line when they got it because, you know, I mean, but there's all kinds of spots, you know, that you can say, I can't see, so let's put a yellow line, you know?
Any further questions for Mr. Schmidt?
And I mean, is there any other complaints but Anthony? You know?
This case is what we're speaking to, so.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you.
Well, what we'll have to do, just for Ms. Kuntz, and we'll have to, myself and Dr. Bear, we're going to have to meet with city staff, discuss what your presentation, the points you brought up, and go forward from there, bring a recommendation back to the city commission. So, for now. Okay? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next public hearing, it will be our Chapter 29 Code Amendment, a harassment policy chapter. This will be presented by City Attorney Wenko.
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners. Included in your packet is the proposed ordinance 1812 with regard to the changes that were made to Section 29 related to the city's harassment policies. As you recall, the city staff was tasked with putting forward amendments to clean up and modernize our code with regard to our harassment policies and make them consistent with federal and state standards. We have gone ahead and done that. There have been no changes since the first reading, and city staff recommend approval.
Thank you, Mrs. Wenko. Any questions for Mrs. Wenko before I open up the public hearing? Any questions? Not, I'll open up the public hearing. If anyone has any questions pertaining to our EEO and harassment policy, the Chapter 29 Code Amendment, this is Ordinance 1812, second reading. Anyone from the public?
I have to confess that I didn't extensively study this. However, I have studied these harassment policies for dozens of hours as they've taken place in cities and counties and states across America. And a lot of these policies, they're very well-meaning, and the language in them is very, it is designed for all intents and purposes to protect the innocent. However, a lot of times what it does is it does exactly the opposite. So I don't know if yours addresses the homosexuality and transgenderism and this inclusiveness and racism. I don't know if yours does that, but I will tell you that there's an insidious agenda that's behind a lot of that. 1960, homosexuality, birth control, transgenderism, pornography, this was all illegal in America. It should still be illegal. And so putting all of this language that's cultural Marxism, which is intended to destroy the American family to pave the way for bringing in hordes of third worlders to overrun America and its culture, is something that should be aggressively guarded against. So I would advise against allowing a lot of this. You let the camel in the tent and all of a sudden you have no more options left. It's all over and done with. So being very careful in what is being allowed. And these hate laws, harassment policies need to be very carefully scrutinized because they are a very dangerous weapon that is used to weaponize the law against those of us who are telling the truth about those who are behind a lot of the evil agendas in America. So I'd be very, obviously, you know, if somebody is mistreating somebody and there's a legitimate concern, that does need to be addressed. But this, if homosexuality should still be illegal. All this stuff, that's what your police should be working on, not a lot of the ridiculous stuff they are working on. And so I would be very cognizant of that. That's all my remarks are.
Can you state your name for the record?
Ryan Masano of MasanoNews.com.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else from the public wish to come forward? Anyone else wish to come forward? Comments on Ordinance 1812? Not, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, do you have any further questions or comments on 1812? Not, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Bear.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We have the public hearing for the North Energy Center Residential Flume Amendment. And this will be presented by City Planner Burchett.
Good evening, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. The applicant is requesting a future land use amendment to turn a property that is Block 1 of the proposed North Energy Center residential subdivision, which is located in the east half of the southwest quarter of Section 14, Township 140 North, Range 96 West in Stark County, North Dakota, within the City of Dickinson's ETZ. He's looking to have the flume amended to go from industrial to residential for the entirety of Block 2, or Block 1. This was previously heard by Planning and Zoning Commission on September 16th of 2020. It was heard alongside a rezone request as well as the minor subdivision for the North Energy Center residential subdivision. It's being heard again because this plat was filed and recorded without going in front of City Commission, and so we're just bringing it in front of you now to get that wrapped up. The rezone is also being filed concurrently and will be heard next, but I'm available to answer any questions that you might have, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Ms. Burchak. Any questions for Ms. Burchak or city staff? This is Ordinance 1815. Any questions on 1815?
This was September of 2020?
Yes. We're unsure of what exactly happened, but we're bringing it in front of City Commission now.
Okay.
It's on your watch.
Well,
You're on
so
vacation.
it went through P&Z, but it didn't go through here? Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Not, I'll open up public hearing. Anyone who wishes to come forward to have any comments about the North Energy Center residential flume amendment, please come forward, state your name. Anyone from the public? Anyone from the public? Seeing no one from the public has any questions, close the public hearing. Commissioners, any further questions for city staff? Now I look for a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman,
Second.
second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Dr. Bear,
Aye.
Mr. Riddle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. And Ms. Burchak, you have a public hearing for the North Energy Center rezone.
Yes, that is correct. So Natalie Burchak, City Planner. The applicant is requesting a rezone from limited industrial to rural residential for all of Block 1 of the proposed North Energy Center residential subdivision located in the east half of the southwest quarter of Section 16, Township 140 North, Range 96 West, in Stark County in the city of Dickinson's ETZ. As mentioned previously, this was heard on the September 16th, 2020 Planning and Zoning meeting, but did not go in front of City Commission, so we are bringing it in front of you today. The previous applicant has been contacted and is in support of this rezone still, so staff recommends approval, and I'm here for any questions you might have.
Thank you. This is 1816. Anyone have any questions before I open up the public hearing? Just an observation. Now that I look at this, for some reason, it just feels like we had this in front of us. I don't know why this was not properly documented. Because I remember this property coming through here.
I do too, but I couldn't remember from P&Z, so.
Yeah, that might be the case too.
Yeah, you would have been probably on P&Z.
I was on P&Z, and I remember this property being asked for a rezone. So, so that's just observation.
Yeah, we looked through meeting minutes for the City Commission and didn't find anything, so, and couldn't find any ordinances associated, so unsure.
What triggered us to catch this?
Somebody had requested a zoning confirmation letter.
Oh.
And was pretty adamant that this was rural residential, not limited industrial.
Okay.
Maybe you were scouring the files and catching all the past mistakes.
Not quite.
I'm befuddled here that we still need the public hearing, right? I haven't asked for that yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody from the public wishes to come forward, speak to this North Energy Center, the residential rezone? Here comes the owner.
Tracy Tews, owner of Dickinson Energy Park. This is on Fredericks, by the way.
Yeah.
But actually, this is, I think it slipped through the cracks because it's when Hadley left. It just never got recorded. So, yeah, it's Jason's fault.
All right.
I'll take that. Pile it
Supposed to
on.
enter that in the record?
Okay, anyone else from the public? Close the public hearing. Any further questions for city staff? If not, I look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick, second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion? Not, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick.
Aye.
Mr. Riddle.
Aye.
Mr. Oderman.
Aye.
Dr. Bear.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a presentation by Dickinson State University, an update.
Thank you, Commission, for having me. Ty Orton with Dickinson State University. Just wanted to come here and give everybody an update of where Dickinson State is. We like to do this once a quarter, twice a year, sometimes maybe a little more often if requested. So we just have a little presentation. I'm going to go through some things really quick. You've heard me talk about the ag building and indoor arena update. We have kind of come to some conclusions on what we're doing with both of those buildings. The indoor arena, which is you're looking at right now, is going to be gray. It's not going to be gold, so we're happy about that. We have that all figured out. The entryway, the previous one that you saw was a 2-story entryway that we thought would really help the community out. We just don't have the funds for that. So we actually pulled that back a little bit and went in between just a simple entryway to something that's going to be a little bit larger so we can have our DSU Rodeo Hall of Fame within the first 50 feet. Have some TVs in there, have some memorabilia in there. But also along that, right when you walk in the second set of doors, there will be a Hall of Fame room that's elevated, looking over the roping boxes, having a little bit nicer experience on that. Overall, this building is going to have right under 900 seats in it. It's going to be a nice venue for a lot of ropings, a lot of rodeos, a lot of barrel racing. A lot of the team roping events, I know several facilities across 4 or 5 states are having 150, 200 team 2-day events where people travel in and bring a lot of items to the community. That's what we hope this is used for. We want to be able to use this for the community. We want to be able to use this for people and their passion so that they can have it when it's cold like it is outside. Overall, we have that, the warm-up arena or the warm-up area on the north end of that, that's closest to the softball complex. That area is where we will have a lot of other items. We'll have numerous tractor shows, whatever it may be, but our biggest one will be Kids Day on the Farm will be in that. It will not be in the main arena. That main arena is simply, we have to keep that dirt clean. That dirt is for rodeo. It's going to be for rodeo. We're going to make sure that it is one of the best competition arenas around, so we can bring PBRs, we can bring all the other things, we can bring nice, strong rodeos in, and this will also be a backup facility for other rodeos when bad weather comes in during the summer. I think last year or 2 years ago, I think there were 7 rained out rodeos. Here's a solution. We don't want to lose our tourism because of, inclement weather. So we're really excited about this. That is what this facility is going to look like. We are already starting to put concrete down. We have paved the parking lot to the northeast of that, which is part of this process. And so that is done. That was done prior to everything freezing. These items now we're putting up the footings for the building. So when the building comes in March, this will be ready to get put up. If we didn't have those footings in right now, then that building we'd have to wait till everything thawed out so we could start to do that. So we're right on schedule with this. This will come up and be open in 2026 for everything that we're looking to do. Any questions on that aspect of it?
Questions, commissioners? No. Thank you.
Okay, so that's just a quick thing. You'll see that in the packet showing the entryway, which I'm probably excited about it more than a lot of other people because we finally have a Hall of Fame rodeo and then the Hall of Fame room. So that's kind of our big thing, and it was a big decision. Kind of like what you guys do every day. You have that big decision. You're excited about it. Nobody understands why you're excited about it. So this is the ag building part. We have the difference. The ag building is a classroom. The indoor arena obviously is the indoor arena. The ag building is where all our students will come. It'll be open for the public. Obviously, they can use some things. Most of the walls will not change. We'll move a few, but this is an upgrade of HVAC, furniture, all the electrical that needs to be updated, and we're adding several windows. So we're excited about that. That one is under construction right now. We have completely moved out of this building, and we will be moving back into it August 1st, so it will be open in 2025 for our students. And that begins our push to really up our ag game, if you will. So there's those. Several things. We have the session coming up. We do our briefs next week, so I'll be traveling over there telling everybody what's going on. I think Dickinson State is a major part of Dickinson and vice versa, so we want to make sure everybody's in the loop of what's going on there. We have some major maintenance issues that we're trying to cover, so we're going to ask for some long-term support for that, making sure that we're looking for campus security. It was cut about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's time we bring that back. We need to make sure we have safety just for the campus, for everybody around that area, to make sure that people understand that when they're sending their students here, their children here, this is a safe environment. So we're looking to really upgrade that. And then the TRC funding. As you guys know, in 2026 is a big time for the Presidential Library. We're the school, we're the partner for that facility. Everything that they have, the Morris collection, any of the other collections that they have, they come to us. And then we have the storage space. If they receive a saddle that TR used, that'll come to Dickinson State. So we're really looking to make sure that if we're that partner, we need to look like that partner. We need to be able to have that budget where we have the personnel to fill a facility for that. So that's kind of what we're doing, going back to that, as along with a major fundraising campaign that we'll have. That budget overall for the TR Center is roughly about $1 million a year. We do have an $8 million endowment that kicks off $225,000 annually is where that'll be at. New programs. This is something that I think is big. We hope this comes in. We're doing a master's in arts, or a master's of athletic training for the community and for our athletic programs. We don't have enough athletic trainers in this area. You go anywhere, there's just no trainers. And everybody puts a big emphasis on sports. The trainers can also tell, let's be honest, hey, parents, you're pushing that kid a little too hard. They are going to get hurt. They have an ankle that's sprained. They have this, or they can also see the mental side that is happening in the sports world as well. So we're really excited about that. That is a very intense program. It is ran almost identical to the nursing program. You have to have a nursing director. You have to have an athletic training director. Then you have to have three professors in that. Same thing with nursing, based on the number of students. But if we can get that, now we can send those students out to all these local schools that don't have trainers and help the community out. I think that's a very big one. Last thing that we're going to be talking about is we're still on the docket for $48.5 million for a new building potentially. We have two options. We can tear down Selkie, which is just east of the library, or we redo May Hall and redo Stickney. Okay, so we have some options that we can do, but we need to see which one's going to be the best for the university. If you redo May Hall, redo Stickney, your long-term maintenance is cut almost in half. And it's a very big thing. Either way, Selkie's in a bad spot. It's not, we can still have students in there, but it's getting to the end. And we need to start making sure we're taking care of our students when they come here. So that's kind of step one of that facility. So we're kind of excited about that presentation as well. Overall, we still have the students, it's 1,400 students. We won't know where we are at for this semester until about 3 weeks in, but things are really strong at the university. They're feeling good. We're working together well. It's just like any business. Yeah, somebody's mad. Somebody's upset. We're going to have that all the time. It's just making sure that we're listening to each other, we're working together, and we're being cordial to each other. And I think it's happening for the most part, in my view. Residence halls are full. We're 95% capacity. And that's a big thing. That helps us with the having kids on campus for all of our events, and that college experience just goes up. Now, residence halls, when I say that's full, that's 300 kids of our 1,100. 800 more kids are living in the city of Dickinson that are going to the university. That's a big thing, because they're all renting, they're all spending the money, they're all doing that. I believe the last number was $12,000 a kid that is spent, and I'm sorry I keep calling them a kid, shouldn't do that, our students. 220 employees. We have a lot of people that are working as adjuncts, and continue to hire that because our classes, we need to make sure that our classes are at the proper size, not overwhelming, but also not too small. So we're working through that. Talked about the renovation projects. The last thing that I was going to talk about was the Woods Hall project. Several years ago, under Dr. Mitchell, we did a small ribbon cutting where Woods Hall was renovated. We renovated one floor. The first floor and the third floor have not been renovated. We are breaking into that right now. And we're hoping to get as much done as we can for next fall, but more than likely it's going to be in 2026 when that comes online again, which will give us another 60 beds. So that's a big part of it. Scholarships, $1.4 million in scholarships goes back. 575 students. Our average scholarship is $2,000 a year. What does that mean? Costs about $8,000 a year to go here. So we're doing 25% scholarships to 575 kids. It's a very big impact on that. These are the events that are coming up. The TR Symposium, we're really making a push on this. We're really writing on the naval approach and how when the Navy was at Dickinson State. We're going to go through that. We have a lot of guest speakers coming in. It should be a very interesting, fun time. Homecoming, it's 100 years. It's our 100-year anniversary of football. I think Coach Bijou was here for 94 of them. So be ready for that. He's excited for it. And we are doing a book. We are doing a children's book. We're doing a lot of things that we don't want this opportunity to miss. We want to celebrate these accomplishments that Dickinson State and our alumni have gone through to get us to this point. So we're really going to do that. Yule time, another big thing that we always have that has been successful. We do have gaming, and this is one thing that I know it's a topic right now. We're not hiding that we have gaming. We do have gaming at two places right now. We have it at the Esquire and we have it at Final. And the one thing that we do with the final dollars is we continue to give back to the youth sports. That was the entire thing. We have grants open right now. You can go to the DSU Heritage Foundation website and apply for a grant. If you have any type of youth sport and you're looking for that, that's where that money's going. My biggest thing, our biggest thing as a board was we were fortunate enough for them to allow us to run our gaming there, but the city of Dickinson, the county, the state helped to get the DSU Heritage Foundation back on track. This is one way for us to give back and continue to build our youth sports, continue to help them, and to continue to let them be able to dream and reach those dreams and do what they can. That's what that money is. It's not a lot, but at least it's there to help those sports out. So it's always a fun conversation, but I think it's going to the right places. It also, Bernie, the Esquire, takes care of a lot of scholarships that we have at the university as well. So overall, I think things are going really well. And the president's search, last thing we have is the president's search is open. We have numerous people applying right now. We did go into a contract with AGB, which is a firm that the university system uses to help find presidents and other positions. So we are in contracts with them. The search closes in March. We'll have interviews March into April. Hopefully have that person starting the position April, May, and have them here on site July 1. That's the time frame that we're looking at. So any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Orton. Any questions for Ty? Great things ahead. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take 5.
Yeah, before we have Mr. Bedoin, we're going to take a 5-minute quick. Okay, we have everybody back. We'll call the regular session back into order. Next presentation is by Dave Bedoin.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here today to make this presentation. I've been considering this for some time. The condition of our solar system, what's going on with the sun. Sun's the main motivator of all our activities, our economics, our well-being. When we have solar cycles, the reason why I'm here is that I would like to get across to you that we're in a very changing time, and we need to do something about it. I think if you go outside these walls, you talk to people, they're uncomfortable about what's going on in the world and in their hometown. So I would like to make this presentation, see, get this thing working the right way. The lady, let's see what the first one says. Okay, first of all, the information I got about climate change comes from a lady who was from the Ukraine, from North Brim University. She came up with a formula that predicts accurately 97% what we're going through as far as the solar cycle. Okay, so that's outstanding in itself, that somebody can come up with a formula 15 years ago and predict what is going on right now with 97% accuracy. Okay, so the next one, people that have weighed in what you call a grand solar minimum. Grand is huge. Solar is from the sun. Minimum is minimum sunspots. Sunspots are measured on a list 1 to 400, 400 being the high, back in 1776. And then the lows would be during the modern minimum that we had. Both NOAA and NASA appears to agree that we are in a full-blown grand solar minimum. And to understand this, we have to understand that how we position ourselves in a time of change. See, this is all new to us. We haven't been in a grand solar minimum for 350 years. So go to the next one. This grand solar minimum is to take place in 2020 to 2052. We are, right now, we are in a stage of, I got to get my paperwork out, where we have come to a stage of excuse me for being a little disorganized. This is my first time up here. So, where we are now in the peak of where the poles have flipped. On every cycle, you have 11-year cycle, and the poles go up, and then they go down. It flips, and then they go down. So let me see when I sit here. So in the cycle, you can anticipate cold winters and summers, and then you can there's an increase of volcanic and earthquake activities. There's also a shortage of vegetation periods that can lead to possible food shortages, predicted to be about 2028 to 2042. And we need intergovernment effort to avoid disaster, and that so far has not panned out. So this one we'll skip. See. Because the Earth is cooling, the jet streams are projected deeper south since there is a lack of hot air that usually buoys up the cold air up. Now, in a regular normal time, you will see the jet stream come from the west going to the east. We get our weather basically from southwest of Hawaii, and that comes up through Los Angeles and Seattle, and then over to us. Now, in a time of a grand solar minimum, the jet streams turn to a wobbly state where it's very unstable because of the irradiation that comes from the sun, producing less control over our weather. When the sunspots go down, we have less control over our weather, and it initiates, because of that, we don't have that power. We have more earthquakes and volcanoes. So, okay, so any questions about jet streams? Okay, hope I'm not boring everybody here.
I mean, to me, it would be to get to the, what can we do?
Okay, well, I'm getting to it. I have to give you the understanding first, the awareness of what we're going through, okay? And I'm almost there already.
Okay,
And I got a plan.
that's good.
Okay, to give you awareness what solar cycles are like, we're going into a cycle not as strong as the modern cycle. That's the very first one. That started in 1645 to 1710. Then we came into the Dalton minimum cycle. In 1804, Lewis and Clark was here, and one fact that I established was that in January of 1804, when they made camps there, it was in the morning, it was 43 below, and in the evening, the temperature went up to 28, and the next day was 38, so you see about a jump in weather, about 70 degrees, and I think we're going to see this. This is a sign that we're in the grand solar minimum. It happened back during the modern times, but I've come to identify that there were two cycles. A 206-year cycle, which was the Dalton minimum, and then the modern minimum cycle happens every 350 years. At this time, we are going to be in 2 cycles, the 206 cycle and then the 354 cycle happening right around 2020. Okay, so the black line shows the temperature as the cycles go down. The temperature goes down. So sometimes, say in 1776, you see one go all the way up to the top. That's 400 sunspots in that 1 year. And then it dropped down by 1812, 1850. The cycle went down. The cycle dropped down. One I want to say that during the Dalton, I got to get some water.
Here's some.
Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, so when you're running these minimums, there's always war. So the War of Lewis and Clark was through here in 1804. We had the War of 1812 when the British invaded New Orleans. Then we had the burning of the Washington by the British in 1814. Then we had 1814, it was Fort McHenry, where the National Star-Spangled Banner came from. They were attacked. So 1850 was was the last battle that Napoleon fought. So expect war. I know that's maybe kind of boring, but when the solar cycle changes, we get these changes. Morality goes down. Socialization goes down. The economy goes down. Now, I want to get back to this one. If you look at globalization, started right around 1950. And that's when we were in a modern minimum. And that went all the way to 2008, where we, at that point, the cycle on sunspots have gone down. So you see one period low, like the modern, that happens every 350 years. Then you go into another cycle of the modern minimum from 1950 to 2008. Prosperity, everything prospered. It was easy to get companies to add on to globalization. You had a pair of pants made in India, or as South Africa went to Japan to get tapered, and there was such an exchange at that time because everything was flourishing. Now we're in this time where things are not going to flourish. Times are going to get hard. Up here, it's going to get cold, and that's what my main concern is that we have to be ready for cold weather in this cycle that we're coming in, this grand solar minimum sunspots. So here's the cycle. We're almost done. You see the cycle, you see cycle 25, the very peak. You see that? Okay, so we're at the very apex of that peak right now. NASA has said in October, November that we had just entered into what they call the polar shift, where the poles on the sun start to flip. Okay, so, and that's a process, according to NASA, that is a process that's going to end in October of next year. Dr. Valentina predicted this 12 years ago, that the poles would be flipping in 2025, and then if you look at the chart, it goes down and it stays down. See, the next little lump or solar cycle is a very small minimum, and they're very dangerous because the suns go up on spot, then they flip, they go back down. And they go back up, they flip, they go back down. And I think she's predicting in 2028 we'll be in a famine. That's her predictions. Okay, so it's something that Dickinson, we have to look at and really weigh this thing out and be prepared for it. If we're not prepared, we're not going to survive this undertaking. Down south it'll be warmer. Up here it'll be colder. So we have a choice. Either prepare up here and learn how to endure the cold weather, or face carnage down south. Because that's what, when 2028 hits, you get famine, that's what people do. It's something that just comes out of people when there's no food. So I have other stuff to share, and I'll make it really quick. See, oh, okay. A lot of people have talked about global warming. Okay, and a lot of people think, well, for me, I think it is what it is. It's elites are taking money out of our pocket and learning how to control us. But Dr. Valentina says we have entered into a solar minimum. The alignments of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, the alignment of them planets take the sun off course. The center of the solar system is not the sun. The center of the solar system is what? It's a magnetic field called the Bear Center. Okay, now the sun goes around in circles. See these lines? That's the traveling of the sun goes off. We're closer. The sun is closer to the earth. The sun has moved closer to the earth in the summertime, making it hot. In the wintertime, now we're coming around the sphere. The wintertime, we're a million miles out. It's colder. So that's part of what an ice age is. The alignment of the planets, the inertia that it causes to the sun takes the sun off base. It's warmer from March to June, and then it's colder when you hit December to February. I don't have the critiquing on that, but any questions? I don't want to humorize anybody, but this is really serious, and I really respect. I want your respect here, that you understand what I'm trying to tell you, because there's not too many people that talk about this. Okay, so what my concern is this. See, I wrote this down here. My concern has been this. That has to do with the grids. The grids are very unstable. Anything can take them down. We live in a nuclear sponge. And at a time of war, mine it would be laid out 7 miles of glass. That's how, because we're in that nuclear sponge. It was designed, the nuclear sponge was designed to absorb the nuclear rockets as they'd come in. And so they put it in places very remote. In 50, 60, 70 years, ICBMs we put in here. Today we have 400 ICMs. We have about 130 Shilohs to put the missiles in. They have multiple warheads on them. So our grid can go down through cyber assault. It can go down through a nuclear bomb. It can go down from EMP tied into a balloon going above us. 1 megaton, I think it is, or was it a 5 megaton bomb, would take out about half of our nation. You take a bomb, you bring it up 885,000 feet, you detonate it, and then it takes out the grid. There's no problem at all. So my thinking is this. We need to be one head a step of the state of North Dakota, because when the time gets tough, we're not going to have electricity here. They cannot guarantee that we're going to have electricity. Neither can MDU guarantee that we have electricity, because if nothing's coming off the grid, they're not having anything. I've talked several times to the past president of the college, Steve Easton, about installing a what they call a solar turbine. Solar is the company's name. Turbine is an electrical plant that you drive in on a semi, you put it in a building, then you hook it up. We have space at the college, and I talked about these guys, and I haven't gotten too far with them, but to start out, we could have producing electricity for Jefferson, for the high school, for the ice skating rink, for the West River, and then the hospital to start out. And then we can move forward. How can we connect the energy plant, and how can we connect houses to this energy plant in Dickinson? But right off the bat, we would have a source to feed this electricity in. And the good thing about a solar turbine is that it produces heat, and that's what the college needs to keep warm. They produce I think they got 3 boilers there that produce heat. So producing our own heat for the college, using that heat for greenhouses. If we're going to go into shortage, we should have having a greenhouse that we can heat. And my request for the city right now is let's find out how to really produce this. Okay, we're going down in October. Dr. Valentino said the polls flip in June, 12 years ago. But we're going down, and we'll be down in that for 14 years, that cold period. It doesn't mean that if we're not prepared, then we lose it all. We have to be prepared. And that's where we have to come together. Get together with the college, get together with people in this community, and start making it happen. Unity, it always brings good things to us. When we're divided and sitting on our tub, we get no place. And my concern is that that we can get an assessment what it's actually going to cost, then what it's going to produce. In a time when the grid goes down, if you think electricity is expensive, it happens to turn out electricity is expensive, then people still want electricity. We have to have electricity, or else we're back to the Ice Age or the Stone Age. So I think that kind of concludes it. I left some pieces out, but I think I brought my concern, what has to be, what I'm thinking, what has to be done, and I would like to know your thinking.
Well, Mr. Bodine, I know we have been working already with Public Works, and I have been working with the North Dakota Emergency Management to try to beef up our electrical grid and our EMP shielding.
Okay, my hearing's not too good. So repeat that.
To beef up our protection from EMPs. So for our backup generators and stuff like that. So we are working with that to find a solution for that. The biggest thing is it always comes down to dollars, Mr. Bodine. It comes down to dollars. Dollars. Money.
Okay. Well, look at this point. 2 years ago, we put in this road, East 94 Loop in Dickinson. It cost us $19 million. We could have used that for a state-of-art producing electricity. The state has money. Let's find avenues to where we can get money to get a generator here in town.
Well, Mr. Bodine, when you find that magic box that the state will give us $19 million to build this, we'll do it. But the $19 million for the road comes out of the DOT, not out of city funding.
Yeah,
and We have petitioned multiple times for infrastructure from the state of North Dakota for different things like water backup and et cetera. And that's something you need to bring to the legislators, the local legislators from 36, 37, and 39, so that that gets into the funding mechanism. But we as local leaders have petitioned for that kind of funding for backup systems. It is not one of their priorities right now. So, and I appreciate you bringing this forward to us. We always look into the public safety. We're always looking forward. I understand your concerns with the solar sunspots going into a cold cycle. I think you've seen across the United States there's a trend towards that. But ultimately, it always comes down to dollars and how many actual dollars that we have. And I know there's citizens within the city. You see certain projects where dollars go to. Not all that money is generated locally. It comes from federal, state entities, and then we put those into it. But we are looking into the public safety on a daily basis. Like you said, one of the things, Mr. Prowse and I have met with emergency management from the state, looking for beef up our EMP protection. I think Governor Armstrong, one of his priorities has been when he was in the legislature, and when he was a representative for the state, now he's the governor. I know one of his priorities is the grid, the electrical grid. I think that what you brought up is slowly being addressed. But I thank you for your comments.
Well, hang on. I want to answer your question.
I don't know. I didn't think I had a question.
Okay,
but
well,
go
you
ahead.
can wait another minute. If someone was trying to break in your house, what would you do? You'd do everything to take them down, wouldn't you?
Within the
Yeah, okay,
within the
so
law.
this is how we need to address this. If we say, que sera, sera, what will be, we'll never get any place. We have to address the North Dakota capital here and insist that they expand their focus to have an energy plant here. In case the grid would go down, you have an intermediate power source to bring the grid up. Dickinson could be that place.
All right.
I'm all done.
All right. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Bedoin? Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into public comments not on the agenda. If anyone wishes to come forward, please state your name.
Good evening. I have business cards that have my website. Should I give that?
Your name, please?
Ryan Misano of MisanoNews.com. Should I give that to Ms. Wenko, or who gets
You
that?
can just leave them there and we'll get them.
It's good to be back. I want to commend you on your response at the last meeting. The 20-minute video got about 15,000 views. It'll probably get about 20,000. So the small audience here doesn't really, it's nice. I wish more people would show up, but there are people, thousands across America and across the world and other countries who are watching what is going on here tonight. They were pleased with your response at the first city council meeting. They were also pleased with the audience's response because they have witnessed what I have said, been seen by audiences and politicians who interrupted and who attempted to shorten what was being said, and they understand what's going on. So there are people watching, and I just wanted to express that they liked what they saw from you. You aren't yet to the point to where you'll agree publicly with what I say, because if you do, you are going to undergo massive attacks from corporations and the media, which you're going to have to weigh. Can you lose friends and family and business? Can you take that kind of attack? I would hope, if you're a man and you don't have courage, I would argue you're not a man. So I would hope that the men in this room who hear this and who are watching this, if you have courage, which is the attitude of facing and dealing with anything recognized to be dangerous, difficult, or painful, instead of withdrawing from it, and our society has become so effeminate that men are discouraged from being what a man is supposed to be. So I would hope the men look into the past, read Plutarch, read what a man is supposed to be, read about Alexander, Caesar, read about the men in the past and see what they did, and then ask yourself, how should I act? I want to respond to Mr. Bowdoin. That's what these are about. You know, citizens hear things, they exchange ideas, and everyone hears it, and they're allowed to weigh the evidence and make up their own decision. I don't force anybody to believe things, he doesn't, and you're all free to make your own decision. However, we only have 200 years of accurate weather data out of 6,000 years of recorded human history. So I agree with what you said, the EMP protecting against that, because if that happens in a year, 90% of us will be dead. So I think it's very wise and prudent to do that. But this is another scheme to put us deeper into debt. We're already 200 trillion in debt with unfunded liabilities, and war and pandemics and climate change. These are all ways to force us further and further into debt to where our children's children cannot even get themselves out of debt. And that debt slavery is the worst, and we're in it right now. Hopefully we're the generation that ends debt slavery so that our children can be free of this. And I know the mayor brought up a couple times that, you know, you want to know things that are actionable, that what can this city do? And I have included 2 steps, and I'll say those later on, small ones that the city, people here and in this city can do to make a change. So making dramatic decisions based on limited information on weather is extremely foolhardy. Would not recommend doing that at all. And yes, we do not have the money for it. We do not want to get further into debt. That's not a good idea at all. To begin with, in regards to the changing of the public comment that this meeting started off on. So, you know, your 15 minutes that you allow speakers is very generous. I don't know how if I had a PowerPoint, I promise you I could have a more informative, you know, if I had things in writing, they say the shortest pencil is better than the longest memory. So if I was able to actually, you know, present things in that format, it'd be a lot more to take away, rather than the best listeners only retain about 10% of what you hear. So, you know, if things are in written format, repetition's the mother of learning. So going over the information helps to instill it into one's memory. But in California, the way they do it, they put the public speakers at the end. You know, I'm in favor of putting it at the beginning because what ends up happening is the business interests, who are almost all connected, they get the first say. We have to sit there and listen to business interests. In Sacramento, I'd sit there till 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and most of us citizens would do that. We get a lousy 2 minutes. I'd get into about 30 seconds and there'd be a riot. And on my way out, I'd have to worry because there was Antifa and thugs that were waiting outside, watching me and following me to my car, which the city of Sacramento did nothing about. So it's an issue I think people should, it's a good idea after people's work schedules are taken into account. Personally, I work 70 hours on the oil fields. I have a man filling in for me right now because I should be at work. So I'm here because, you know, someone else is actually working in my set. I'm going to fill in time for him. But it's hard for a lot of us. We're working 70 hours a week to come here, to do the research, to speak to you, and to put the kind of time in. And we do a lot of research into this. I'm not just waking up one morning, oh, this is a wonderful thought, let me go tell the city of Dickinson about this. No, it's heavy duty, detailed research that's gone into this, thousands of hours. So I do appreciate the time that's spent to listen to this. But businesses should not come before citizens. This nation was founded by citizens being put before business interests. The love of money is the root of all evil. And that is the root of a lot of our problems right now. So we have got to learn, yes, business is great, it's got to be done, but you know what comes before business is rights. The First Amendment is first. That's not for businesses to do business. It's for every single citizen to have their ability to speak freely. And when the First Amendment is not taken seriously, those who study the Constitution know that the Second Amendment comes into play, which is a very dangerous one. And if what I'm saying right here is not taken seriously, then the next step, when people try to silence what I'm saying, the next step is the Second Amendment comes into play, which is a very dangerous precedent and one which we would hope to avoid. So we don't have free speech everywhere. You know, for those who don't know, social media is full of bot armies, it's full of algorithms, it's full of influencers, it's full of shadow bans. So if you think you're going to get on Facebook and Twitter and actually find the truth, you are badly mistaken. The stuff that you come across on YouTube or Google's owned by Sergey Brin and Larry Page, 2 Jews. Wikipedia, same thing. Every single time you pull up a search online, Larry Sanger and Jimmy Wales, 2 Jews, own Wikipedia. I mean, I'm starting to see a pattern here. So I think people should be wary of what you're seeing on there. Newspapers newspapers, television, yeah, your Dickinson newspaper, the Killdeer one, all of them, all the newspapers, the television, the radio, the movies, celebrities, influencers, it's all controlled. So this forum right here is one of the last ones that an American could actually see and hear the truth. That's why so many people are watching. Thousands are going to be seeing what's going on here tonight, because people are starting to wake up and they're sick and tired of being lied to. Because people are starting to wake up that we've been lied to since 1913, long before any of us were born. It's a very dangerous thing that's been going on. And if you think the schools and colleges and libraries, I could go get a book. No, you can't. The ALA, American Library Association, I have 200 books on my website that you're not finding in this conservative state in any library within 200 miles of me. You're not going to do it. So to be able to like find the truth, focus on it, research it, and put it into play and implement it in one's life is of paramount importance. Killdeer, your neighbor to the north, does not have what you have. I tried to speak there. They don't allow people. Mr. Bear commented on it. They don't allow people to. That's not anything to be proud of. That's actually a shame that they actually have less rights than communist California does. The fact that they don't give citizens, and I'm sure the farmers and ranchers of Killdeer, when they find out what their city council is up to, I would hope as American patriots they do something to fix that, because it's a huge problem that you don't allow citizens to get up and tell truths that we need to hear. We need to hear these things. You think by silencing the truth that I'm saying, you're helping Americans? What I'm here to say tonight affects every single person in Dickinson, every single person in North Dakota, every single person in America, and all 8 billion humans on planet Earth. So it's very important. You're not seeing this on television. I call it Jew vision, because there's a reason why they don't want you to see this stuff. Dennis Fahey said in the 1950s, if you have a television in your house, you have a Jew in your living room, because they control every single thing on there. No, I'm not anti-Semitic, and no, I don't hate all Jews, and no, I don't want to do the Holocaust. I'm just going to bring up the objections before they can do it, because once the media gets a hold of this, I'm just going to tell you what they're going to say before they've done it, because I've encountered it hundreds of times already. But you know, I've encountered some of these objections in dozens of city councils, never held up under scrutiny that comments at city council should be on city business. True, I mean, but what I'm saying is very important. You know, it does affect all of our lives. If it's not addressed, these problems are going to get worse. You saw the pandemic that shut this nation down in 2020. There's worse on the way. We saw World War I and World War II, where 90% of Americans were against America getting involved. And yet after Lusitania and Pearl Harbor, we were marching in World War I and World War II after we were promised by Wilson and FDR that we would not be in these wars. And the year after they were reelected, our boys were marching in those wars in foreign areas. And that's what's about to happen right now, because I'm speaking to you. There are plans underway for World War III. It's going to be Russia and China against America, and we are going to lose. So it's time that Americans start to wake up, particularly white Americans, because this is a war on white America, which is the last resistance to the one world government that exists on this planet. So what we do here not only affects America, it affects every other single country on this earth. As a child, I loved to read. I still do. This is a huge problem as Americans, half of America is functionally illiterate right now. But one of the books that I liked reading was Sherlock Holmes. And we are dealing with right now a crime. And we're dealing with criminals. And we don't see the crime, and we don't see the criminals. And that's why nobody's doing anything about this. But Sherlock Holmes, Conan Doyle said that when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever is left, however improbable, must be the truth. So to go over a lot of data, because critical thinking does not mean you just pop up one day and just think, oh, I'm going to make a decision on this. It means you have a vast array of knowledge, which means that you spent part of your life pursuing knowledge, which who honestly among Americans has the time to do that? Working 70 hours a week right now, I can promise you, I have very limited time to be pursuing knowledge. And I'm a single man with no wife and no kid. So I could just imagine, coming from a family of 18, I know what it's like to have kids. I could just imagine the men who are married or women, how much time you have to devote to a lot of this. It's very limited. I understand that. Many of us in America know something is wrong, but we don't understand what crime has been committed and who is the criminal. And what is even more incredible is that criminals pay vast sums of money to distract and deceive so we never find out. Also, we have limited time. We don't have that much time left. The clock is ticking. So the further part of this is the time that we do have is limited because there's a lot of information that needs to be gotten out. And if it's not all gotten out, people don't listen. But there's not much time. And then at the same time, we're marching towards world events, which as soon as another COVID hits, what's going to happen? We're going to be like, oh, we have to do this, we have to do this because everyone else is doing this. Like what Mr. Bear said, oh, this city is doing this city is doing this. Who cares what this city and what that city is doing? We need to care about what is right, and if it's what's right, it needs to be done no matter what. And it doesn't matter if all 8 billion humans on this earth disagree with you. If it's right, it's right. I don't expect anyone to just accept what I say. After all, we've been conditioned to reject any message unless an expert or a professional or an influencer says it. As I mentioned in my December Dickinson City Council meeting, my website, you have it. If you do a search for Restore, I already went over that. Among those books, there are thousands more to be added. You'll find the proof for my claims, many of which may sound outrageously absurd. Indeed, had someone told me what I'm saying tonight just a decade ago, I would have dismissed what they had to say as absurd nonsense. But time tells all tales, and often careful research into matters reveals conclusions quite different from what we think we initially thought of new facts or ideas. America is an occupied nation. We are governed by alien foreigners who have been working like parasites to destroy this nation and to establish a one world government since at least 1913, when they installed their income tax and Federal Reserve. Myron Fagan, who is a Jew, wrote an excellent expose of what his fellow Jews are up to in one of the dozens of booklets he wrote, this one a 34-page booklet titled The CFR and the Illuminati. Most of us have never come across the Talmud, and that's intentional because if Gentiles found out what the Talmud teaches, the Jews would be kicked out of America, the 110th nation they are kicked out of. You know, I don't know a single race or religion has been kicked out of 10 countries, so it's shocking that the Jews have been kicked out of 109. There's a saying, the Jew cries out in pain as he strikes you. Now, of course, we've all been conditioned that there is one group you are absolutely not allowed to criticize. Amazingly, you could criticize white people for years, and the media won't accuse you of wanting to kill all white people, but as soon as you criticize Jewish wrongdoing, all of a sudden the invectives begin to fly. Bigot, hater, anti-Semite, Nazi, Holocaust, sexist, racist, and many more. And you're not allowed to criticize one historical event either. You can criticize any historical event, but if you criticize the Holocaust, this is a huge crime. 90-year-old women get thrown in jail in Germany for doing this. We already know that television and movies have been controlled. Fahey also wrote the book, The Rulers of Russia. There's another book that investigates claims of the Holocaust and finds they are likely sensationalized. That book by Arthur Butts is The Hoax of the 20th Century. It's banned on Amazon and on most social media. The American people are currently enslaved by Talmudic Jews. They control our Federal Reserve, and since they control the media too, they can routinely start wars and pandemics and have their paid politicians, and for those who don't know, both parties are run by Jews, vote to spend money on foreign aid, wars, and disaster relief to get us further into debt slavery. Democrats are run by communist Jews, Republicans are run by Zionist Jews. Now, not all Jews are involved, but while they will call me many names, they will never call me liar. One book that people must read is The Prodigals of the Learned Elders of Zion. The Jewish media will lie and tell you this is an anti-Semitic hoax, but it's not. I have proof on my website it's not an anti-Semitic forgery or hoax, and I have a book, Waters Flowing Eastward, by an American-born widow of a Russian military officer, the military officer having been put to death by the Jewish Bolsheviks, showing how the prodigals were the blueprint for the communist robbery and murder in Russia, where 40 million died. North Dakota was settled by many Germans, and they should be highly interested that it was Jewish communists who destroyed Russia and who warred upon and destroyed Germany in World War II. We were on the wrong side in both world wars. Let's talk briefly about World War II, shall we? Let's begin by the statement which can easily be proved by serious research into both sides, which I dare say 90% of Americans have not done, that America was on the wrong side of both world wars. Furthermore, every single American military conflict from World War I onward has been instigated by and for Jewish interests who are busy fomenting World War III as I speak. I recommend everybody read Robert Stinnett's brilliant Day of Deceit, which lays out the overwhelming evidence that FDR knew in advance that the Japanese were going to attack Pearl Harbor, and not only did nothing to prevent it, but was actively encouraging an attack up to a year before December 7, 1941. Second, we are told World War II started because Germany invaded Poland, and that's why Britain and France declared war on Germany. But if World War II was about Polish sovereignty, then why did Russia invade Poland at the same time as Germany, and Britain and France didn't attack her? Is it possible that Germany kicked the Jewish bankers out and that they controlled France and Britain? And when Germany tried to reclaim land stolen from them by the Treaty of Versailles, which like the Nuremberg trials was dominated by Jews, that Britain and France attacked? Because if World War II was about Polish sovereignty, then why did Russia control Poland for 5 decades following World War II? And why was no one in Russia punished for the Russians murdering 20,000 Polish leaders in the Katyn Forest massacre? And why was Germany falsely blamed for this? And why have we not had mass trials for those responsible for 100 million dead in Russia, China, and Cambodia under communism? I want to end with an experience I had in Walmart. I seldom shop at Walmart, and since the mayor has indicated that speakers should speak on topics that the city can do something about and not wanting to go too fast too soon, there are 2 items I'd encourage everyone in the city to do. First, everyone with a television, throw it away and stop wasting time watching movies, television, and sports ball. Second, stop shopping at big corporations like Walmart. Well, I went in Walmart because I couldn't find a funnel for food anywhere else and I didn't want to order it online. So I walk in and ask an associate for help. She calls another associate who is the most pleasant woman, not hard to listen to or look at, but she didn't speak English. Now, how is it that a woman from South America who doesn't speak English is working at Walmart in Dickinson, North Dakota? North Dakota is one of the American states furthest away from the southern border. I understand how people born in South America face dysfunction and want to come here, but the dysfunction in every nation is due to the same roots. There is an active campaign going on right now which started with the 1965 Hart-Celler Act to bring non-whites to America. Emanuel Celler was a Jewish politician from New York who also pushed gun control, another issue that has Jews behind it. Once a nation is disarmed by Jews, as Russia and China learned when it was too late, the mass murder begins. Before 1965, you weren't allowed to move to America unless you were white. We were told the 1965 Hart-Celler Act wouldn't change America's demographics. That was a savage lie. America's white population is on the verge of becoming a minority. And for those simple Americans who believe non-whites coming to America is simply about diversity and treating everyone equally, that's not the case. Jewish bankers are pushing this so they can accomplish 2 goals simultaneously. First, they can pay cheap labor so that Americans, predominantly white men, cannot make enough on one income to support a wife and a lot of children. Secondly, it was to stir up racial animosity, which serves Jewish purposes with the divide and conquer policy. So that's all I had. Thank you for your time and have a great night.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wish to come forward? We'll close the public hearing. We'll move back to the regular agenda, Moe's Smoke Shop. Ms. Carlson?
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. Before you is the Moe's Smoke Shop tobacco license. Their address is 3275 West Ridge Drive, Dickinson. The owner is Mohammed Waza. Filing fee has been paid, and administrative staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Any questions on Moe's Smoke Shop? Is this a Simpsons episode or? If there are no questions on Moe's Smoke Shop, I'd look for a motion.
I would move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman, a second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further questions on the tobacco license? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Mrs. Carlson, you have a recall election update.
Thank you, President Decker. Yes, we thought we should be bringing in another update of where we're at. Just kind of a step backwards. December 7th, candidates were able to begin circulating petitions. The required signatures to be on the ballot was 116. December 11th, official notice of the offices and deadline was published in the Dickinson Press, on the city web, and on the city Facebook page. January 6th, as of yesterday, petitions were due by 4 p.m. Mountain Time for those running in the election. And the update for that is there were no petitions were handed in by the deadline. So as of January 15th, an election notice will be published establishing the certified candidates in the Dickinson Press and on the city website and the city Facebook page on that part of it. Going forward, on the 21st, we present a list of election workers to the commission for approval because as of January 30th, the absentee ballots will be available for early voting. So that's where we're at. And then I know I've been asked that in the next update, we will give you an update of what we've spent so far.
Okay.
It's been asked.
That was going to be my question, but regardless, no one turned in any petition to run against Commissioner Frederick. We have to conduct this election. So
Correct.
yes, we'll be keeping track of how much this costs. Any questions, commissioners, on the recall update? Now we'll move into community development. We have a rezone request for the Meduna rezone. This will be presented by City Planner Burchak.
Good evening, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. The applicant is requesting the approval of a zoning map amendment from rural residential to low-density residential for the south 207.04 feet of Lot 9 and Block 1 of the South Fork Acres Second Subdivision located in the City of Dickinson's extraterritorial zone. The purpose of this rezoning is to match the zoning district for the portion of the block adjacent to lots 1 and 2 of Block 2 of the Decker Third Subdivision in order to combine those 3 lots into via a minor subdivision plat. The purpose of combining those lots is because the applicant is hoping to build a shop in their backyard and just has to have all lots in order to get that approved.
Okay.
It's being submitted alongside the Meduna minor subdivision, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Ms. Burchak. Any questions from Ms. Burchak or staff on the Meduna rezone? This is ordinance number 1813. Any questions? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bear.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion? Any questions? Hearing none. We'll go ahead and vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. And then we have the final plat, Ms. Burchak.
Hi, so Natalie Burchak, City Planner. The applicant's requesting approval of a minor subdivision plat for the Meduna First Subdivision, which is a replat of lots 1 and 2 in Block 2 of the Decker Third Edition, as well as Lot 9 in Block 1 of the South Fork Acres Second Subdivision, located within the southeast quarter of Section 16, Township 139 North, Range 96 West in the City of Dickinson's extraterritorial zone. According to the applicant, the purpose of this proposed subdivision is to combine the south 207 feet of Lot 9 with lots 1 and 2 in order to construct a detached shop behind his existing residence. Lots 1 and 2 are currently zoned low-density residential, while Lot 9 is currently zoned rural residential. The proposed subdivision is 6.08 acres. The companion zoning map amendment was the previous item that was just approved that rezones just that southern section to R1. Staff recommends approval contingent on the approval of rezone 007-2024. And I'm here to answer any questions. And as I said, staff recommends approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Burchak? This is Resolution 01-2025, starting off the year. You get the first one.
Woo.
Any questions? Not, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we go into the 2025 Road Maintenance SID. This will be presented by Engineer and Community Development Director Skolacek.
Good evening, Mr. President and Commissioners. For your consideration is a resolution to modify a previously approved resolution, which was resolution number 39-2024 for the 2025 Road Maintenance Special Improvement District 2025-01-2. The district was approved on November 5th, 2024 at the City Commission meeting. At the November 19th, 2024 City Commission meeting, resolution number 47-2024 for the 2025 Road Maintenance Special Improvement District number 2025-01-1 and 48-2024 for the 2025 Water Main and Lead Service Line Replacement Special Improvement District, which was 2025-03-1, were approved. Those two resolutions that were approved in November 19th City Commission meeting did not include curb and gutter from within that special improvement district. And during with those two resolutions, the interest rate was set at 3.7%, which was the average of the 10-year Treasury yield interest rate for the month of September 2024. The protest period for this project, as required by North Dakota Century Code, ended on October 25th, 2024. The information on the protest was provided to the city commissioners, which did not meet statutory requirements to bar the city from proceeding with the special improvement district. The benefits are listed in the memo, which were presented at the time of the Resolution 39-2024. In this case, the total amount of the project, including this special improvement district and the area east of 10th Avenue East, or what is 2025-01-1, is estimated at $7.62 million, and it'll be funded through a combination of gross production tax and special assessments. This special improvement district was previously estimated with curb and gutter at $31,747.60 as per the engineering report. The intent of this resolution would be to modify and remove the curb and gutter from this special assessment, and then also modify the interest rate back to 3.7%, which was similar to what happened with the other two special improvement districts. If this is approved, the engineering staff will proceed by finalizing the plans and specifications for the project, and then we'll send updated letters to the property owners within this special improvement district, noting the changes by removing the curb and gutter as well as updating the interest rate. And then ultimately move forward with the project, prepping it for bid. City engineering staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Skolacek. Any questions? This would be 02-2025 for the new resolution. And how soon will those letters go out?
We should be able to get those out by, say, like the end of next week or something like that. So we'll move as quick as we
with the
can.
modified amounts?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If there are no more, further questions, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Bear.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Special assessment, I vote no.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next up, we have the Highway 22 Traffic Signal Maintenance Agreement with North Dakota DOT. Mr. Skolacek.
Good evening again, Mr. President and Commission. For your consideration is a cost participation and maintenance agreement with the North Dakota Department of Transportation for North Dakota DOT project number 5-022-145070, or project controls number 23738. This is the North Dakota DOT Highway 22 traffic signal replacement project. Cost participation, as stated in item A on page 1 of 7 on this agreement, is noted to be $0 for the project and to the city of Dickinson. The only scope of work requested for this project by the city of Dickinson is related to intersection traffic cameras, and then also the infrared beacons to allow emergency services vehicles through by changing the east-west traffic to red lights and green for go through. Any of these additional costs were accounted for in the 2025 capital improvement program budget. Part 2 of this agreement details the city's post-construction requirements or maintenance-related stuff, and then Part 3 of this agreement details the city of Dickinson's maintenance requirements related to the project. If the cost participation and maintenance agreement is approved by the City Commission, the agreement will be sent via DocuSign to the mayor, city administrator, and city attorney for their electronic signatures. Engineering staff recommends approval. Legal did review this and has no comments. Stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Skolacek. Any questions on this North Dakota DOT signal agreement, maintenance agreement? If there are none, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. That takes us through the regular agenda. We'll move on to commission. Commissioners, do you have anything? Now I look for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
We are adjourned.